Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Answers podcast. I am your host, Miyamo Jeff 53, joined as ever by my wonderful co-host, Joebot 22.
Hey. I don't know what I was going for there. That's very samey. Like
Yeah,
a lot of my other interests. But hello, everyone.
I was going to say I did hear the little pause after the first hey, like you're trying to think of something else, but you couldn't.
I was wearing away.
Yeah, you couldn't really get anything in time. But talking about things not coming out in time, last week's episode, boy, that was a humdinger, wasn't
Yeah.
it? After I did say in the post edit, that wasn't our fault for the majority of it. Actually, that was Discord, because for some reason Discord decided to just stop working in the UK. It might have something to do with the update that came out a couple of days later, but it's really good timing that it would all stop working as soon as we start recording the podcast. But anyway, as I said last week, there was a special segment that we didn't get around to due to the connection issues and Discord's inability to want to work. And that special segment that I alluded to was, in fact, the Wrestling Answers podcast Hall of Fame. Ooh.
Yeah. We need a
Yeah.
theme song. Standing for.
And then in the hall. There you go.
You
Yeah.
do the Will I Am bit.
I'll be honest with you. I don't remember that part. It's been a long time since I've listened to that
Wasn't
song.
it just the rap bit?
Oh, mate, I don't know. I don't know the words to it. I just know the chorus. No, it was it wasn't the Wanted, was it? The script. It was the script.
Oh, fucking okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the Wrestling Answers podcast Hall of Fame. This is a segment that we will be doing every 10 episodes, or in this case, it will be 9 episodes until the next one, because we were supposed to do it in episode 10. But no, we'll just do it today. Now, Joe, you will be the deciding factor here.
Oh.
This is putting a lot of pressure on you here. We have 4 initial nominees for the Wrestling Answers podcast Hall of Fame. These are all moments or things that we've talked about on the podcast before that they last long in the memory, you know. So
Yeah.
our first nominee, Tramp Wrestling, from episode 3, I believe it was. The infamous Tramp Wrestling ramble.
What am I deciding here?
Well, you'll decide who goes in, Mr. Bot 22.
Okay.
You are
Can I say
the
yes to all of them, or can I say no
well.
to
You
it?
see, we're only going to induct one today. We'll
Oh,
induct
okay. So
one on each
I'll hear them
episode.
out.
Yeah. So we have, of
I'll hear
course,
them
Tramp Wrestling from episode 3. We have the Mrs. Talking Smack promo, which has gained a bit of steam in recent episodes, of course. Ricochet in a Gimp costume, which comes from our very first episode, in fact. And Grimm's Toy Show, which was, I believe, we spoke most about that in episode 4. So there are your nominees, Joe. It's a
For
big
me, it's
question, this.
either between the Talking Smack promo or Ricochet in the Gimp costume. But since we talk more about Ricochet than we do about Ricochet in a Gimp costume specifically, I'm gonna nominate, or I guess induct, the Talking Smack promo.
Well, there you have
If
it,
it was just
folks.
Ricochet by himself, I'll put him in, but because it's specifically the gimp costume, I think we've only mentioned that maybe twice. Same with Trump Wrestling and we've only really referenced GTS. Very minor, like that's not a word, but yeah,
Well, minor is a word, but I know what you mean.
minor like it's not
Yeah.
saying. But so yeah, I'm going for the Talking Smack.
Well, there we
His
have it,
promo.
folks. Our first inductee into the Wrestling Answers Podcast Hall of Fame is Michael Mizanin and his promo that he cut on Talking Smack. So obviously,
Should we clap?
you can, mate.
Woo!
Obviously, if you are watching Mr. The Miz, which of course you are, you can expect nothing except for the plaudits and, of course, the gratitude of the entire Wrestling Answers podcast team, of which there are two of us, and yeah, you're the first
Well
man.
done.
Yeah, first man in the Hall of Fame. So our other three nominees, they will be able to be re-elected into the Hall of Fame. However, not in the next issue. So if you're in one vote and you don't get in, you can't be in the next one, but you can from then on. So it gives opportunity for newer things to get into the Hall of Fame rather than just constantly recycling the ones that don't get in. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So there we have it. The Miz, first man in the Hall of Fame. And we'll just, we'll move straight on from there. Quite a quick segment, obviously, but I don't know how I can drag it out. We don't have the Miz here to give a speech,
Give
so
it speed. We should ring him up.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
Garmin speed dial.
we'll,
But
we'll,
now
we'll, we'll contact him on Twitter. We'll see what he.
yeah, we'll at him just like, hey, Mister Mizanin, guess what? You are now the inaugural inductee into the Wrestling Answers Podcast Hall of Fame. How do you feel? And we'll get a comment out of him, I'm sure. But anyway, we will now obviously get on with we'll get on with the actual show now. Of course, if you guys want to take part in the voting process, for the next one at least, leave it down in the comments, and we'll come up with a way for you guys to vote, and we'll see, from a fan's perspective, who goes into the Hall of Fame. But we'll move on to our first proper topic of the day. Super heavyweights. Now, the reason I've chosen this was because late last night, when I say late last night, it was while Backlash was going on, I was trying to think of things to put in the podcast or topics to do. Because obviously we record this on a Monday, it goes out on the Tuesday, so this was Sunday night. So obviously Backlash was on. And I was on Twitter. I wasn't watching it because why would I? Who cares? And I saw Braun Strowman, and I thought, could we do a topic on, guys like him? So I got to thinking, I was like, Hoss wrestlers, guys like Braun, and I guess Luke Harper, of course, rest in peace.
Yeah.
And then I thought, in terms of modern examples, you don't really get many of them, Like I say, you had Harper, you had Strowman, you had Rowan, but really that was all you got these days. So I thought a little harder, and I thought about how about do super heavyweights instead. So obviously, Braun is the biggest example in the WWE right now because he's quite a large individual. Not in terms of like how fat he is, in terms of the fact he's like nearly fucking 7 foot tall and could probably crush your head like a grape. But you know, you got other notable super heavyweights from back in the day, like Scott Steiner was technically a super heavyweight, and then obviously you got guys like Big Show, Mark Henry. I think Bobby Lashley doesn't count because although Bobby Lashley
Yeah,
is the
it's
size
not.
of Bobby Lashley is the
not
size of a car, but he's not a super heavyweight, I guess.
would it be classed as more muscle in
Yes,
his
yeah,
example?
he's. I mean, Bobby Lashley is fucking ripped to the gills, and so is Strowman, to be fair. But I think Strowman's got quite a significant height advantage on Lashley. But yeah, so we'll just talk about super heavyweight guys. Obviously, right now you've only really got Braun. I think Lesnar used to be a super heavyweight. I think after he came back from UFC, they started classing him as just a heavyweight again because obviously he used to cut a lot of weight before UFC, and he
Yeah.
was in the heavyweight class in UFC anyway. So it wouldn't make any sense to call him a super heavyweight. But yeah, what do you? Oh, the Undertaker as well. He was super heavyweight. Anyway, what do you think about a cheeky little super heavyweight? Well, I say little, a cheeky super heavyweight wrestler.
I I I just love super heavyweight wrestlers, mainly because of the fact that you just know that they're just gonna be bloody picking up like guys and just crushing them and like fucking throwing them around, like bitch slapping them and like unless they're against Stephanie McMahon, then they're gonna cry like a big dumb baby. Um, but no, I really enjoy super heavyweights, and I think what they add is a balance because obviously you got loads of small guys. You got like Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, uh, fucking Sin Cara, and then with the balance of the big guys coming in, slapping around, clapping their cheeks, like being like, "Oh, come on then, you little bastard." It really adds like a weight to it. Well, I'm not saying that's so big, but yeah, that has a weight to it. The only thing I don't like about heavy wrestlers is they tend to win a lot of the championships, unless they are, of course, like cruiserweight championships. Uh, that's the only thing I don't like because it's like, yeah, you're big, but you shouldn't be winning all the time because less stamina. Uh, you're more slow, and yeah, that's the only thing I don't like personally. But how about you anyway? Uh,
Um, well, I'm probably in a similar boat to you, really. I do like super heavyweights, and as you say, they do bring a good balance to the modern roster. I think you go back 20, 30 years, super heavyweights were usually really a dime a dozen. You had guys like One Man Gang, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant. You could find them pretty much every match of the card, really. But I think nowadays, due to what people want in wrestling changing, and they want more of a technical kind of a match rather than, just two big fat lads beating lumps out of each other. I think because of that shift, you don't see them nearly as much. It's why, obviously, it was harder for me to pick out proper super heavyweight examples earlier. But yeah, I do think super heavyweights still have a place in wrestling. I think obviously Strowman is cutting out probably the most noticeable niche as a super heavyweight in the wrestling business. Um, I think it's just the reason we don't see nearly as many is probably down to the lack of, or the perceived lack there, rather perceived lack of technical ability of these bigger guys, because obviously physically they can't do as much as the smaller, um, thinner guys, like you say, Rey Mysterio, Sin Cara, Kalisto, guys like that, they can do a lot more in the ring than some big fat lad. So it's like they do bring that balance, as you say. Usually, I'm all for a super heavyweight getting a championship, as long as it doesn't feel unwarranted. Like, talk about Mark Henry as world heavyweight champion. Makes sense. He battered everybody for months and he got his hands on the championship, right? But if you were to give the title to, say, Omos, or however you pronounce it, then he's probably one of the only other examples of a proper super heavyweight. You give a big championship to Omos just because he's a big guy, I don't think it works. I think the best role of a super heavyweight typically is in like a David and Goliath kind of a situation where the smaller guy has to overcome the bigger guy, and bada bing, bada boom, they're over because they've proven that they can overcome the odds. Like Rey Mysterio versus Big Show. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It isn't really a point, but it's like a funny side note. I was watching I don't know what bloody TV channel it was on, but they do like a free Raw thing every Sunday, and occasionally like we would flick through and they would and we would watch it for a few minutes. And my dad's been out of touch with wrestling for a few years now, so they had the match on Raw this week, but it's like Nia Jax was in it with like Shayna Baszler, Charlotte, a few people, and he was just taking the mick out of Nia Jax being so much bigger than the other wrestlers. He's like, "Who's this big fat bitch fucking wrestling?" And I was just like, "God damn it! Like, it's just Nia Jax." And yeah, I told him all about Nia injuring, like, got a name, Kairi Sane, and yeah, so we basically just took the mick out of Nia Jax for however long we were watching it, and yeah, that was pretty much the entire side note, but yeah.
Fair enough. I mean,
I told you it'd be weird, but
yeah,
yeah. Um,
I don't blame you for disliking Nia Jax. I think you'd
I mean,
be
at the
with
end
the
of the day,
vast
she's on
majority.
stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well,
And I
we've
like Kairi
spoken
Sane,
about.
so
Yeah. I think we have. I think we have actually spoken about Nia Jax before.
we have. We have.
And how.
What topic would it have been?
Honestly, I can't really remember. I think it might have been episode 3 as well, because I'm thinking about
Scroll
when
back.
when I made the thumbnails, and I believe I had Nia in the thumbnail for that. So I'm assuming it probably was that. But
Yeah, it would have been. I'm looking at it now.
yeah,
What did we talk about?
it might have been
Women's
unsafe
tag
workers.
belts. That might have been it.
Maybe, yeah. It was either that or it was we were talking about
Mixed tag
unsafe
match,
workers, and
maybe.
honestly,
It
it's
might have been
been
mixed tag match actually, because I was talking about how I wanted the women to beat up the men, or the men
oh
to beat up the women as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I was gonna say it has been 2 months since we've recorded that episode, so
We don't know.
yeah. Honestly, we don't know
I
all of our
certainly don't
episodes off the
know.
top of our head. Yes, yeah.
Like, you do all the thumbnails and shit. I don't. I just turn up.
Yeah.
I do none. I do none of the work, guys. It's, yeah, but no.
Yeah. So I think Nia Jax is another good example of a super heavyweight in the modern industry because I guess she's sort of breaking down the norms for a female wrestler.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the only person who comes close to her in terms of, I guess, like bigness, not bigness in terms of like weight, like fatness, but like bigness in terms of big muscle women is like
Yeah.
maybe like Dana Brooke and Shayna Baszler. 'Cause they got big muscles, you know.
Well, shit. Uh, I guess. I mean, I would have compared her probably more closely to someone like Tamina or
Yeah, I forgot about Tamina. Yeah,
uh,
Tamina definitely.
yeah, or if you go for an older example, you could use somebody like Karma, who and
Oh, I love
she
Carl.
had two matches in the WWE and then left.
I love the female. It's like,
Yeah,
and just like
it was the big
crush
elephant in the
down.
room. Yeah,
No, it was like it wasn't a laugh, was it? It was like a scream. It was like, ah! Or was that Paige that I'm thinking of? Well, fuck it.
you might be thinking of Paige with the scream there.
Was it a laugh? Oh, I'll check.
I'm assuming yeah, honestly, it's been a long time since we've seen Karma, so it really could be anything.
But yeah,
But yeah, to summarize our points here, really, super heavyweight, good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really all there is to say. We just like super heavyweights, you know.
And
Obviously,
now, well, I guess we're not moving. I don't know if we're moving on. What I
uh,
was going to say, but now we're
I
on
mean,
topic three. We're moving through these topics very
yeah,
quickly.
we'll just
Uh,
blast through them because we've got. I
and don't
think
forget we got Sean.
there's one later on that I can see will take that there'll be some heated debate, perhaps.
Oh, uh,
Yeah.
do you want to get a quick teaser for that one?
No, we'll let them suffer in silence.
Oh, I don't
Um.
know what it is, but
You just want me to tell you what it is? Well, when we get to it, I'll bring it up. Yeah.
okay.
So we'll move on to our next point. Well, I say point, our next topic, which is will AEW ever overtake Raw or SmackDown in the ratings? Do you think?
Uh, oh, ooh, oh, this is such a tricky question. Well, with well, because AEW just correct me if I'm wrong here, because I think I saw this, but I'm not sure if it's like true or whatever. Didn't AEW get to 1 million viewers?
Yes, AEW have hit
Recently?
1 million. They've hit 1 million live viewers a couple
Is that
times.
is that overall or is that just
That's in the individual weeks. So one week they'll hit 1.04 mil, and then the next they'll get 9.25 or something like that. Because
okay?
if if it's like that, I, I had to think about how to word this question because I would have said, would they overtake WWE in ratings? And technically, they already do because they beat NXT, or they did when before
Yeah.
NXT moved to Tuesdays. They would beat NXT week in, week out. Like
Well, the way
NXT
I would
genuinely won
interpret
one week.
that topic was like, would they beat him overall in terms of pay-per-views and all that?
No, I just
Uh,
mean what I mean by this question is rather than them overtaking them in terms of pay-per-view sales, because I don't think that's never gonna happen, and it'd be very hard to tell if it did because of the network, and because
yeah.
people get the network subscription, they don't buy the pay-per-view, they just get the pay-per-view with their subscription. So it's a lot harder to tell modern WWE pay-per-view buys just because of the move to the network. It means if they do terribly in terms of buys or what they perceive to be buys, then they don't publish it because you know they don't have to. I think the only pay-per-views they still sell are they still sell pay-per-views. Don't get me wrong, because some locations still don't get the WWE network, so they have to do it via pay-per-view. So things like WrestleMania, I think they still post pay-per-view sales for the big four pay-per-view, or big four pay-per-views rather. However, they are obviously considerably lower internationally than they used to be, you know, because I think the last WrestleMania that posted actually like high pay-per-view buys was 29, because 29 was the last one before they moved to the network.
I feel like the only places that would buy pay-per-views are like pubs, like people who just want to sell like the event, like advertise it. Yeah, tonight's WrestleMania. But anyway, so it's back to I reckon that AEW will take over Raw pretty soon. Actually, I feel like AEW are gonna make a big, they're gonna get a big contract signing, and everyone's gonna be like, "What the fuck?" And it'll be right in like September, October months for WWE, where they don't do as well, I think, because there's not a lot going on apart from maybe Hell in a Cell. But the build up to that is always a bit naff.
Well, typically WWE's worst performing time period is actually the time period between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. So pretty much the period we're in right now is usually where the worst business happens for the company, year on year. If we look at the sorry, I'm just looking for the average viewers. So if we go with F4W Online, obviously Figure 4 Online, the Wrestling Observer, this is. We have the Raw viewership for, I want to say, when's this? This is the 3rd of May. So this is not last week's Raw, the Raw before. So this is 2 weeks ago. So obviously we're recording this on the Monday before Raw happened. So this is not the last Raw, the Raw before.
Imagine if it happens tonight.
Imagine the ratings just shoot straight up. Actually, no. Sorry, no. I've got the figures from. Yeah, I've got the figures from last week. Actually, we don't need the ones from before. So this is the go home show before WrestleMania Backlash. Obviously, the show happened last night. The average viewership for Raw on Monday, the 10th of May, was 1,817,000. So
Wow.
1.817 million. The AEW ratings for the last show, so that would have been, I want to say, trying to get the date now. Just off the top of my head, it would be the 12th, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so the average viewership rating for. Actually, I've only got the 5th, so this is the week before so far. I probably could get a more updated one if I went on the F4W Twitter, but the ratings for the 5th of the 5th were 1,090,000. Compare that to Raw's last week of 1.817. We'll split it in the middle and we'll say there's about 750,000 difference.
So yeah, it's not, they're not far off.
No.
Like,
one thing I will say is the important statistics are typically the male 18 to 49 demographic, and Raw actually outdoes AEW Dynamite pretty much every single time in terms of the 18 to 49 18 to 49 demo. So Raw typically is getting 0.53. AEW is getting, looking at it, averaging about 0.35 to 0.4. Some weeks they go down to like 0.26. Other weeks they're up to 0.44. It varies a lot. But yeah, I think one thing it is important to note is that WWE, or Raw rather, Raw are winning the important demographic by, it doesn't sound considerable, but you think of like the percentage difference there, it's a big gap still. So I would say, talking about will AEW overtake Raw or SmackDown in the ratings? I will say Raw post lower ratings than SmackDown. That's why I haven't used SmackDown as an example, because SmackDown, it's a bigger draw on Fox, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot easier for it to catch up to Raw, because Raw's writing is, from all accounts that I see on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, whatever, YouTube, usually they're all saying Raw's writing is crap and AEW's writing is really good. But WWE's got a bigger fan base than AEW. And one thing I do want to point out that's very, very important here is this is just American viewership. This isn't international viewership. So it's because they only really track the US viewership, because that is as we know, it's the biggest market. That be because it's the homegrown market, right? The biggest market is going to be the home market, so it makes sense that this is the one they track. AEW, I think their highest rating they've ever had is 1.2. Raw's highest was a 9.8, but that was also in the Attitude Era, so I mean, of course, it happened in the Attitude Era. I do think AEW, in terms of US viewership, will beat Raw one day. However, I also want to say it's quite a far way away so far, because AEW's been around for nearly 2 years now. It's coming up on 2 years. Yeah, they've only been around for coming up on 2 years, and they're already hitting about 1 million viewers. Close enough. I do think they're going to overtake Raw, because Raw's viewership is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Maybe it's because what's Raw on the USA Network? Maybe because Raw isn't getting the advertising in the US that it needs, or because, like I say, the product isn't very good and they're just hemorrhaging viewers like no tomorrow. I do, like I say, think AEW will overtake Raw. Not like soon, but if you gave me like a time frame of about 3 years, I would say I think AEW would have taken over before the end of that time frame.
I'm just so
Yeah,
confused
so
right now. All these
there's a lot of
statistics.
numbers. Yeah, there's a lot of numbers.
I'm too dumb for this, guys.
Yeah, it
But no,
obviously.
yeah. So my understanding of it, right? So it's gonna be an idiot's guide to yeah. I don't think AEW are too close, but as I said earlier, if I guess we'll have to talk about it, like if it was happening recently. So if in the next week or month, AEW get a big name signed on, I reckon that'll be the opportunity where it's most likely to happen. That in these
Yeah.
next few months between SummerSlam and WrestleMania, they get a big name. I reckon that might be the thing to tip it over. I don't know. Maybe I'm Maybe I'm wrong. But
I would say one thing to point out is they're not directly competing against each other just yet, because obviously Dynamite is on a Wednesday rather
yeah.
than a Monday like Raw is. So it's very possible that everyone who watches Raw would just go and watch AEW anyway. And maybe AEW's target, rather than trying to compete against them, is try and get the rest of the Raw viewer base over. You know, they're on a different television network. They're on TNT, Raw on USA. Different days of the week, obviously. WWE's already got 2 shows. I would say 2 shows is enough. Back when I used to watch wrestling a lot more, I would watch Raw and SmackDown, but I wouldn't watch not AEW. I wouldn't watch NXT. I wouldn't watch 205 Live, really, because I think in my eyes 2 shows is plenty. And maybe it's a similar thing with the casuals, where they'll watch Raw and SmackDown, and they'll see advertisements for AEW and stuff, and they'll go, yeah, it seems cool, but I'm already watching 2 shows. And it's probably why NXT does so shit in the ratings. Because looking at NXT's ratings here, they are losing to AEW. They've lost to AEW every single week this year. And we're in May.
and obviously they moved.
Yeah, and
Well,
NXT have moved to the Tuesday. And looking at when they did actually move, their ratings have gone up, but they're still losing. Oh, no, actually, sorry, no. NXT beat AEW on 1 week. And that was the week they moved to Tuesdays. That's it. Because they moved to Tuesdays on, I want to say, the 7th of April. Or it would have been the 6th of April. And they posted 768,000. AEW got 688. However, the next week, AEW also posted their highest ever rating. So, swings and roundabouts, really. Yeah.
Right.
Oof.
I just feel like there's not enough time in the world for all these things. People aren't gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna watch wrestling every night. Every night it's just gonna be me watching wrestling. No,
Yes.
people are gonna be watching stuff like fucking, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy, shit like
Yeah.
that. Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. I know they're not on, but like people got shit to be watching, and they're not to be watching wrestling. So
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's such a busy world.
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't like we say pretty much every week. Really, we don't really watch wrestling anymore because there's several reasons. I think one of the biggest ones for me is I got bored of it, but also as we've gotten older, we have less and less time to put into watching wrestling, and with wrestling, every day or nearly every day of the week, and at awkward times for us as well, because obviously we live in the
yeah,
UK. It and when what you're watching isn't good, as has been the case for a long time now, you just stop. And that's what I did. I just stopped. You know, I can't
I would
speak
love
for
to
you,
watch
but
it more. It's just I don't want to, and
yeah, that
I
is
don't
my.
want
I
to
think
fit
I'm
it
in a
in.
similar boat there. I do want to watch more wrestling because, as I've said, last wrestling we watched was WrestleMania, and before that we hadn't really watched any for a while. You know, one of our mates does watch a little more than us, but not not a lot. He'll watch the pay-per-views because he's got the network, and that's about it. Sometimes we'll watch it with him. Most of the time we won't. But yeah, I agree with you on the thing about we want to watch more. I do want to watch more, but at the same time, when all I see on my Twitter timeline about wrestling is how bad it is, then why should I bother? You know?
Yeah.
Because if it's so bad, then why would I bother using my time to watch it if it's just gonna be shit, as they all seem to say it is?
But yeah, I feel like that's
Yeah, we've
that,
sort of
that took a really sad turn.
we've sort of veered off of the lane track, haven't we? Yeah. So back to what we were saying about AEW. I think statistically, AEW have been growing substantially, and Raw have been falling off massively. Where I think you could really make the argument here that yeah, AEW could overtake Raw and SmackDown, and I think the way I phrased it, obviously, I said will AEW. I would say yes. I think they will, but not for the foreseeable future. Give it a couple of years, because who knows? In the 3-year time span that I said earlier, maybe AEW go out of business. You know, who knows? Maybe they lose their TV deal, and they just poof, cloud of smoke.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that for topic numero tres. We'll move on to topic numero cuatro with wrestling families. Now, I was going to give a list of examples here, but thinking about it now, there's so many examples that you could give because,
Um,
you've got. I'll give obviously the most famous ones. Famously, you've got the Harts, you've got the Von Erichs, you've got the Ortons, you've got the Rotundas, which is obviously Bray Wyatt, Bo Dallas, and his dad Mike Rotunda. Barry Windham's one of their uncles, stuff like that. A lot of wrestling, a lot of people in wrestling are quite closely related, whether that be through family friends or just being family, you know? But I wanted to get your opinion on wrestling families and more specifically how much they, I guess, dominate the industry, because obviously the people who run the biggest wrestling company in the world are a family, you know? So
yeah.
it's like, obviously, there's going to be elements of nepotism in wrestling. There always has been. I think trying to claim otherwise would be incorrect. But what do you think about the idea of like wrestling families being how people get into the business, for example? So, Natty Neidhart probably got a shot in wrestling because she was, you know, Jim Neidhart's daughter and Bret Hart's niece, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think it's for everyone, right? Am I wrong in saying that the WWE Network did a like special where they like trained Mick Foley's daughter? And
I don't know if it was on the network, but I do
I
know what
remember
you.
it
I do
happened.
know what you're talking about. Yes, they tried to get what's her name? Noel.
Yeah,
They tried to get her into the business. Yeah.
and obviously, well, we don't need to really say it, but yeah, I feel like when families try to push someone into a certain profession just because like they've got connections, I don't feel like it always works. Like uh, a good example of this is me personally. I went to work with my brother as soon as I uh, got out of school, and I hated it. Also, wasn't very good at it. It was in a restaurant, so me very clumsy. But then I went on to get a job with my sister. I won't say where because I'm already there. I'm still there, and yeah, I would feel it's more fit for me. I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but I've not fucked up massively yet. So um, but yeah, that's me personally. So I feel like that sort of gets into a lot of what wrestling families are. I mean, we got a lot of examples where it gone wrong and they had to go back into developmental, in like the case of like Natalia and well, I feel like that was more of like a training thing. I think we spoke about it before, but am I right in saying Nia Jax is one as well?
Yes, yeah. So Nia Jax
Yeah,
is the WWE like to pretend like Roman Reigns is The Rock's cousin, but Nia Jax is actually legitimately The Rock's cousin, and I think it's been said a lot. It's never been explicitly said, but it's been intimated that she's in this position because she's related to The Rock. And according to dirt sheets, she got very, very close to calling The Rock after I think she had like a shit match, and WWE were considering sending her back down to developmental. She had like another shit match for like probably the fifth time in a row. They were considering sending her down to developmental, but she threatened to call The Rock and then get him to, I don't know, stop working with the company or something. So, as you said, you gave your example of yourself. It's nepotism, is what it is. It's using your family's position in WWE's case, within the industry to get what you want, pretty much. And because The Rock is an incredibly powerful man in terms of what he can do for wrestling, because of how much mainstream appeal he's got, yeah, I can understand why she would use that nepotism for her advantage. Do I
I
agree with
mean,
it? No, I don't. I don't
yeah, I
agree
mean,
with
no,
it.
no, I don't agree with it, but I personally would never, and I have never done it. How I used it to sort of, well, has it been done to sort of lessen a punishment? Yeah, of course, but I've never done it to completely avoid it. Like
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
still, I've told you stories where I've gotten yelled at,
yes,
um,
yeah, yeah.
and that was the same with working on brother and my sister, both of them. So and and yeah, so it's it, it's one of the things where it's using your power. And don't forget that like The Rock is not just a huge name in wrestling anymore. He's
Yeah, no, like I
a
say, he's got a massive,
global
massive
name.
main. Yeah, he's got massive, massive mainstream appeal, which is why he holds so much power in the industry. Because if he just decides to,
Got working with wrestling,
yeah,
he's been out.
if he decides to fob him off and just say to Vince, "Listen, if you do this, I'm not going to work with you again," then, well, he is wrestling's biggest star, isn't he? So they
And,
can't afford to.
and like you see The Rock, he's had films with Disney, like in Moana. He's
Yeah,
working with Warner
yeah,
Brothers, with DC now, with uh,
Black
Black
Adam.
Adam,
Yeah.
and that was on the brain. But but no, so yeah, I mean I feel like if the WWE network fails, the WWE fails, I feel like they will probably go to a more higher up company and say, hey, buy us. And
Yeah,
if
yeah.
The Rock is like, nah, don't do it. I feel like that could be something WWE want to avoid.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like I say, there's loads of examples that I could go through. I think one of the more obvious ones that I don't think you maybe would have thought about, because it's not really like a WWE thing, but it was Lacey Von Erich in TNA who got pretty much thrust into the main event of the women's scene, because of her surname alone. Because obviously the Von Erichs are, in the history of wrestling, a massive, massive establishment. You know, they pretty much ran all of the Southern territories. Well, I say ran them; they were, the biggest names in all of them, really. And she used her name to get into a pretty good position with TNA, where she's one of the, maybe not really like a main eventer, but relative to her talent, she's in a much, much better position with she was in a much, much better position with TNA than she should have been, because in relation to her talent, she shouldn't have been anywhere near TNA. She shouldn't have even been in the Indies, because she wasn't a wrestler. What she was a bikini model with the surname of a wrestler, is what she was. You know, and because she has that surname, TNA took a punt, and it failed horribly. But it's stuff like that. It's nepotism like that that really hurts wrestling, because people who don't have history in wrestling, like, if for example, if we tried to get into wrestling, and if we were working in the same kind of promotion, if we were working in a promotion where, I don't know, the owner's son was there as well, they're wrestling there as well, we wouldn't. I'm assuming we wouldn't get the opportunities they would, because they've got nepotism on their side,
Yeah.
and we don't. And it really can
I'll have a
hurt.
match with the owner. Be like, come here, bitch. But nah, I mean, I feel like Job and Jack and Joe Diggables without the family versus the owner's family. I feel like that'd be a good match.
Yeah.
I feel like people will pay to see that.
Yeah, but we use that example. They would probably get booked a lot better than us because of nepotism, right? And it hurts people with no history, because it makes it harder for them to come through, because they're just being held down because they don't have this name. For example, I remember I read something about I think it was Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, a long, long time ago, he's wrestling on like the Scottish indie scene, and he wasn't really getting any gigs, because where he lived there was like one family that ran a lot of the shows, and they didn't like him, so he just couldn't get any gigs. And I guess it's reverse nepotism in a way.
Yeah, I mean,
But
we've been talking about a lot of the negatives here, but
yeah,
there are
there are
positives.
some negatives. I think there's more negatives to nepotism than there are positives. I think it can help elevate people a little bit. I think Curtis Axel, being the son of Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, I think he was definitely helped by his name, but also he didn't rely on it, because Curtis
Yeah,
Axel, like, they would bring it up that he was the son of Mr. Perfect and stuff on commentary, but like he didn't use it as a crutch, whereas somebody like Lacey Von Erich, or uh, one of the most blatant examples that I can't believe we didn't mention, Shane McMahon. You know, their whole
oh
thing
shit, yeah.
their whole thing is built off that they are the relatives or descendants of these big figures in the industry.
I feel like one we also haven't talked about is have you seen the film Fighting with the Family or Fighting with
Fine
My
with my
Family
family. Yes,
with
Paige.
the
Yes, yeah.
Paige? In that we see her get picked instead, well, and her brother not get picked, and and I'll tell you what, when Paige got to big now, I don't see why she couldn't be like, right, we'll give my brother a chance. But I feel like that's something that
Well, I think
I'm
it's
glad
because
she didn't do.
by the time she got big, I think he'd actually retired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But yeah.
the one thing I will say about Fighting with My Family is it is definitely a dramatization of real life events.
Oh, yeah. The
Because
bits
there
where they
is,
were all like talking about her, like the, behind the bush. She was like, "Oh, who talking about me?" Hated
yeah,
that.
because I would like to point out there is an actual documentary called Fighting with My Family, which was on Channel 4 a long time ago, and it was actually about um, the Knight family, which is Paige's shoot name. Um, it was about their family, and it was about. I think part of it was actually Paige getting an offer from WWE. It wasn't nearly as dramatic in terms of she gets the trial than what the film adaptation of it made it out to be. But yeah, no, I get your point. She had not like significant, but still she had decent leverage within the company to maybe say, hey, why don't you try give my brother a job? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Or even just anyone from like her old promotions. But I'm glad that uh she didn't. Well, I'm glad that she didn't, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
That you're gonna
yeah.
have to tell me. You're gonna have to send me like a link to that documentary. 'Cause that sounds interesting, like an actual proper one.
You might. I think it might be on Daily Motion if you look hard enough. I'm not sure. I doubt it would be
Okay.
on YouTube. It might even be on like
Uh,
all four or something.
cool.
It was a long time ago. This documentary, I will say, like it's
Okay.
a long
It
time
won't
ago.
be anywhere then.
Yeah, it's 2010, 2011, something like this. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. So wrestling families, I personally don't have. I don't have a huge problem with it, as long as it's not like abused like it was with examples like Lacey Von Erich, where it's like they're just using their name to get into the business rather than using the name but also their own merits.
Yeah. I mean I 100 because I, as I said, it can just be exploited, and when they're just crap, it sort of also it also sort of tarnishes the name of the original uh
Yes,
family
yeah, it
member.
does. Yeah,
Like
it does.
that's something I didn't even think of until now. But yeah, because when I thought about the Noel Foley thing, I was just like, damn it, Foley clearly didn't raise a good wrestler, you know. Well,
Yeah,
obviously it's not
well,
his
it's.
fault.
I was gonna say it's because
And I
he
say
didn't
I have
raise his
nothing
kids
against
to be
Noelle
wrestlers.
Foley. I'm subscribed to her on
Yeah,
YouTube. I
I was
love
gonna
her
say,
Funko Pop videos.
I'm sure she's a lovely girl. I'm pretty sure she's mates with Adam Pacitti as well. So she's good in my books.
Oh, respect.
It is spec. Yeah, but
Love Anna Pacitti
like
here.
us,
We should get him
like I
on.
say, we should, we should. I'm sure it'd be a good laugh. Um, get AJ Hazard on as well. Uh, no, but yeah, like I say, I don't really have a huge problem with it as long as they don't abuse the power that they have to get further than they should.
Yeah. I mean that's not obvious, but that's something that should be like universal within any industry. Like just
Yes,
don't
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
could just get an easy job and you've just sat on your fucking, well, you might not be fat, but you fat ass.
Okay.
It gets me
Anyway,
heated.
right. Anyway, yeah. So I think that about covers it for the wrestling segment of the show. There's the W of WAP finished. Now we'll just give you
The sauce.
then we'll just give you
I still
answers.
haven't thought of anything for that, by the way. I've
We'll
just
just
been
on to answers podcast now because we'll answer
I guess it could
regular
be
things.
PCAP, Pop Culture Answers Podcast. Well, I guess wrestling falls under pop culture, but
Yeah,
but yeah.
whatever.
Anyway, so the first topic is, in my opinion, it's a great film. Not the greatest film of all time, but it is Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back. Now, I know Jack, you said to me recently you've sort of fallen out of the Star Wars sphere.
Yes,
Like
yes.
so that's why I sort of include. I wanted to include something Star Wars. We don't want to do like a Star Wars comic character, true or false, because I wouldn't fucking know where to start. If I'm being honest, I know like the main ones, but the ones that are just on the cover. But apart from that, you know. So I went with a film. So do you want to give your basic thoughts on it, and then I'll say what I think.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you've seen it, by the way.
yeah,
I don't know.
of course, I've seen Empire Strikes Back. What do you take me for?
Okay.
An idiot?
What have you seen it before? Some kind of fucking asshole or something?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. But yeah. Well, I do like Empire Strikes Back. I like it a lot. It is, in terms of the rest of the Star Wars films, it is probably the best. If you take it at face value, I think compare it to a lot of the other less good Star Wars films. It's like Citizen Kane compared to some of the fucking prequels. But I think I would be lying if I said it's my favorite Star Wars film. My favorite Star Wars film is, strangely enough, actually, it's Episode 3, which a lot of people seem to dislike a
okay.
lot more than I do. Uh, but I'm not talking about Episode 3. I could go on about Episode 3 for a while, but I won't. But Episode 5 is a bit of a strange one for me because a lot of people say, "Oh, it's the best. It's one of the best Star Wars films. Hell, it's one of the best sci-fi films ever." Right? I've watched it probably 4 or 5 times throughout my lifetime, and every time I go in expecting it to be better than it is. Like I had it with the first time because my dad's a big Star Wars guy, or at least the original trilogy. He's a big original trilogy guy. He built it up like it was one of the best films he's ever seen in his life. I came out, I was like, yeah, no, it's good. That's kind of it. And ever since then, I try and watch it and I try and convince myself that it is a better film than it is. But then I always come out just like, yeah, it's good. That's about it. You know? I I like the set pieces in this one more than I do episode 4 and 6, and even I prefer some of the set pieces here than I do in episode 3 as well. I think going from Hoth to Dagobah to Cloud City, it's all quite cool. Cloud City, especially, I think is like a cool set piece. We obviously get introduced to Yoda, at least in terms of the actual chronological release. We get introduced to Yoda. I think obviously it's got the most iconic moment in Star Wars, but I think outside of I'm Your Father, Luke, and I guess all the stuff on Hoth, I sort of I don't know. I'm feeling it's very hard for me to put into words here, as you can probably tell, because I'm just sort of covering stuff I already have. It's very hard for me to put into words how I feel about this film. Like I think it is good, but not as good as people say it is, and I can't really pinpoint what it is for me. I think it's just okay. Well, it's better than okay. It's good. Like if I give it out of 10, I'd give it like a 7, right? But maybe it's something with me. Maybe it's because I'm I'm more familiar with the prequels, and it has been admittedly quite a long time since I've seen the original trilogy. And obviously the last Star Wars film I watched was Episode 9. So, my feelings on Star Wars are probably tempered slightly by that, where I have a worse outlook on Star Wars than I used to. 'Cause growing up, I used to love Star Wars, and when Episode 7 was revealed, I was bouncing off the walls. I saw Episode 7, and sort of the same as with this, I went in thinking, "Oh, it's gonna be great," and I came out and I thought, "Yeah, it's all right." Same as with this one, I thought, "Oh, building this up like it's this fucking masterpiece. Yeah, it's all right," you know?
Uh,
And I
that's fair enough.
just I don't know. I feel like there's nothing particularly wrong with it, but it never clicked with me.
Right. So this might be a what podcast first, but I 100% every single point you made is what I agree with. Right. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars film, but it's not good. It is not good. Right. And that just because Star Wars as a whole is good, right?
Mm.
But Star Wars as like in terms of films, no, they're not
Yeah,
good.
no, I get you on that one. I think I'm probably the same boat. I actually prefer the idea of Star Wars to Star Wars itself. Like, I think the everything else is what I like about Star Wars. Really, I like the world building. I like some of the characters. I like the ideas, the worlds, all that kind of stuff. I'm more interested in that than I am the actual films because a lot of the time the films are they never click with me. They're just a bit boring, which is it's a strange thing to say about action sci-fi films that especially the original trilogy they're revolutionary for the time, and yet I still think they're a bit boring.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
yeah, I'll let you continue.
well, I was just gonna say, I see a lot of people because obviously I follow a lot of Star Wars fandom, and this is where I sort of well, we'll talk about fandoms later on in the it's a little spoiler, but we'll talk about later on in the episode. And what ruined Star Wars for me, much like what ruined like stuff like Persona 5 for me, is people saying this is brilliant when in fact it's not. It's good, but it's not brilliant by any means. And I feel like when people just went to me, oh, you have to like Empire because it's the best of all the films. I was like, well, no, because I like these
Yes, yeah,
films
no, I get you there.
more. And because a lot of people are like, oh, Disney ruined the sequels. Don't watch the sequels. The sequels are bad. Kathleen Kennedy ruined the sequels. I'm just like, well, I like parts about sequels. I like the world building in Jakku, and Rey, like uh, like she has her problems, of course, but she's like a good character. I see people like, oh, how did Rey know to fly a ship? She's a woman who's learned pretty much technology by herself as a kid. She's learned to survive, adapt, build things, salvage ships, scavenge ships. You really think she wouldn't know how to fucking fly a spaceship? Like, are you kidding me? She would know. She has a land speeder by like, for goodness sake. And I feel like when people just say, "Oh, you have to like this because of this," or well, it's mainly for Star Wars fans, and I feel like a lot of it just comes from like bias, really. Um, and they're just like, "Oh, you gotta like this because of this," but when really it's just not as good as they make it out to be. A lot of like the extra Star Wars media is better than the films. I would say this is a really weird take, but the Lego Star Wars games are better than the film.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I would
as a
agree with you
gameplay
there. Yeah.
experience, I prefer playing the games than I am to sitting down and watching the film.
Hmm. Well, they tell the story
And
in a nice, succinct way, don't they? You know, you can get through the, if you do like the super story stuff, which is the full movie, it'll take you about half an hour to get through that. The movie's 2 hours. It's a lot quicker and it
yeah,
just goes through the plot points a lot quicker. Maybe it speaks to us not really having as much patience, but
that is very true.
yeah,
But I just feel like just a final point. I started getting back into Star Wars after having like a few years of just watching the sequels. Like that's the only Star Wars media I watched, mainly because I didn't like go out and buy the films as before they were on any streaming services, except for the ones that I didn't have. Like Star Wars was never on Netflix, and obviously I didn't go out buy Blu-rays and such. So the only times I really watch like anything Star Wars or Marvel or anything Disney would be in like cinemas or if like my dad would buy it on Blu-ray. Um, and when Mandalorian came out, I just didn't like it because the first few episodes weren't good, so I didn't watch it. And then everyone's like, "Oh, you got to watch Mandalorian, you got to watch Mandalorian." I'm just like, "Oh, but I didn't like it." And then when I watched it, I started getting back into Star Wars, and I watched every film, and I just didn't like it as much because obviously I never grew up with Clone Wars. I watched like the first season of Rebels when it first came out, and it was all right, but it's kind of meh. So Star Wars has borne me, and I'm just sort of out of Star Wars in a minute. But
yeah.
the
No,
Bad
I'm
Batch
the
has got me
same.
a little
Yeah.
bit hooked. So who knows? Who knows, guys? I have found myself going, I kind of want to watch the Star Wars film, but then I just go to watch a Marvel film because you know I love Marvel. But yeah, that was a sort of rambly take on why I hate Star Wars. Well, not hate, but
Yeah, you don't particularly like it. You just sort of it's just there.
yeah, I can't just say the
Yeah.
Mandalorian was great when I watched it. I don't want to get any
I I
angry
still I still
Star
haven't
Wars
seen
fans.
it,
Like,
so
I'll be one of them guys.
honestly,
Watch it.
I'm no well. It's like as you
You don't
say,
have to watch it, but it is good.
I've sort of got into the same hole that you got into, where all I've really watched in recent years is the sequels, and because of that,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch anything else because obviously, I know everyone says it's really good and stuff, but it's like I don't have enough. I don't know. I don't really care enough anymore to watch it. I'm just like meh, you know.
The thing that I liked about The Mandalorian, just as a quick side note, is like just how every episode was directed by a different person. I couldn't tell you every director's name because obviously I don't know a lot about the film or TV industry.
Yeah.
But they obviously had like Jon Favreau and Taika Waititi, who I obviously know from Iron Man and Thor Ragnarok. You may have heard of them. Um, I know obviously that JoJo's Rabbit was obviously done by uh, Taika and Jon Favreau did
Did
Elf,
Chef?
Chef, yeah.
What a
So
film.
obviously,
There's a new
you know,
series of
they
Chef
got
as
big
well.
big
Netflix.
directors.
They turned Chef into a series on Netflix.
Yeah,
Once I finish
I
watching
started
Breaking
watching
Bad,
that.
I'm gonna watch that.
Um, is it? I started watching that. Are you on about the one where he just cooks with people, or are you on about is that actual show about the
I
film?
think there is an actual one. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I watched the one where they cooked with like Gwyneth Paltrow.
No, it's just a cooking series. We just John and his mates going out having a grand old time.
That that is literally what it was, and I was
Yeah.
just like, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth
Ugh.
Paltrow. Ew.
She's all right, but I can only
Yeah.
tolerate like her for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Of any more than that, I'm blowing my brains out.
The once I finish watching Breaking Bad, I'm probably gonna move on to probably that. Maybe I'll watch The Mandalorian. Who knows? Maybe I'll give it a try.
I mean, it's not long anyway. It's two
Yeah,
seasons,
Mandalorian's two
so
seasons. I've got about 2 seasons left of Breaking Bad. Uh, yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot. I would say if you haven't watched Breaking Bad, I'm gonna be the exact same as you with Mandalorian. I'm gonna say give it a watch because if you've got Netflix, which I assume you do,
I
it
do. Yeah.
really is worth watching. Because I remember I watched just the first episode originally, and I was like, yeah, no, this is all right. But then I didn't watch any of the other episodes. So over the weekend, because a mate of mine was talking about it, I was like, you know what? I'll sit down and watch it. And I pretty much, from Friday night until Sunday night, managed to get through 3 full seasons because
Fucking hell.
I was watching it like non-stop. Like it's so addictive. It's so good.
That's
Genuinely,
something I
like
would like to watch actually.
Breaking Bad is one
Everyone's
that's
banging
it's
on about
really
it.
really worth watching. It's everyone bangs on about it for a good reason. No, that's all I'll say.
But
But
yeah,
yes, we'll move on from that. Pretty much to summarize, we think Empire Strikes Back is okay,
okay.
and that's about it really. I
My
don't.
favorite all the Star Wars films, but stop. Yeah, well, I'm gonna stop now if I don't
Yeah,
show up for it. But anyway,
my favorite is Revenge of the Sith. That's the third one, isn't it? Episode 3.
that one is really good.
I think everyone gives it a much worse rap than
It's wrapped
they
in with
should.
them like
Yeah,
prequel,
I was
like
going to say, I
Sith is
think
the
because it's a
best.
prequel, I think it's because it's a prequel, and because episodes 1 and 2 are bad. I'm not going to deny that episodes 1 and 2 are terrible, but I think because it's a prequel, it gets a worse rap than it deserves, and also because people take it a lot more seriously than they probably should. Because I don't take Star Wars seriously. It's a fucking film series about space wizards shooting each other with giant metal boats in space. Like,
Yeah.
I don't take it seriously, but a lot of people do, and that's probably why they don't like it. Because I don't take it seriously, I think all the goofy shit that happens in episode 3 is actually entertaining. And I think it's a decent film.
Well, we'll brush more on that in a minute actually when
Yeah.
we get to
Yeah, we'll
you know
talk about that later. But we'll
because
move
I feel
on
like that's actually a
quickly.
good point we can
Yeah.
make later.
Yeah, we'll move on to our second to last segment, which is
Well, I'll be amazed if this goes past 5 minutes. So I'll tell you what, it just turned 1/2 past now, so we'll quickly
yeah,
well we
we'll
won't
get this
rush it,
one
but
we'll get this one quick because I'll be honest with you,
I've got about six,
I'm quite
seven
hungry.
questions.
I'm quite hungry, so
Okay,
we'll just
he's been having his Skittles, folks. Uh,
yeah, quite hungry. I've got man's got to go eat some dinner, you know. Got to
yeah,
rush off.
I got a rush as well, so we should probably hurry up. But so yeah, this is a Pokemon true or false quiz. I was trying to do a true or false quiz. Uh, every week, obviously, and I was just looking around my room, but obviously because I got shit that I know about, obviously on display, and I thought, yeah, why not do a Pokemon? I don't have much Pokemon,
Wow.
I must be honest. But yeah, so I'm gonna read off some Pokemon names. Obviously, they've gotten more and more obscure um, in recent years, and I couldn't find many, but here we go. So first one is Grumpig.
That's true.
That is true. No, I've never seen one in a game, but
Grumpig, psychic type.
apparently it's true.
Grumpig is a psychic type from Gen 3. It's the evolution of Spoink. I
Oh,
believe it was
I
only
thought Spoink
found
was
in.
only.
No, so Spoink evolves into Grumpig, and I believe Grumpig was a version exclusive to, I want to say,
Oh, maybe
Sapphire.
that's why.
Yeah,
But yeah, next one is Dramper.
Dramper. Oh God. If it's true, it's a 7 or 8. Because I'm thinking of Dramper. Because there's the normal dragon type from Gen 7. Oh. I'm going to say yes. That's true.
It is true, but I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does help that I have played Gen 7. So,
It looks like, oh, you remember Temtem, like when that came out a
yes.
few
Yeah.
months ago. It looks like one of them.
It does a little bit, yeah.
For all I know, it could be. Um,
Yeah.
but next is Sunspot.
Fake.
Yeah, that's X-Men. I I have I don't read I had a banging headache last night. So I have a New Mutants comic just open from where I left
Yeah.
it.
You
So I'm
just took
just looking
took
around.
yeah.
Next is Pikachu.
That's true.
I was gonna do something like bullshit. Where it's like Pikachu, like chew your mouth. But I
Yeah, yeah.
thought, oh, he would
Yeah.
absolutely fucking kill me.
Yeah. Just yeah.
So a new co-host. But yeah. Next is Creamy Cooch.
What was that, sorry?
Creamy Cooch.
No, that's not real.
That one just sounded funny to me. Next is Ghost Stick.
Ghost stick. Ooh, no, I'm gonna say no, that's fake.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think they'll allow that in Pokemon games.
Ghost stick. I was gonna say ghost stick sounds like it's a vape, isn't it?
Wait, did you mishear me?
Did you
What
say
what did you think?
like ghost stick, like ghost stick?
I said Ghost Dick,
Oh,
as in
well, that's even
penis.
worse. I was gonna say because I do actually I have heard of ghost sticks. It's a brand of vapes. Not for
I don't
myself,
even know if you said
obviously.
true or false on that one.
Yeah,
But
no, that's false. It's false, obviously.
yeah, yeah. And last one, Pumpkaboo.
Pumpkaboo, that's real, bro. Gen 6
Yeah. I
evolves
was just looking
into
around. I was like,
what's it called? Oh, what's this evolution called? It's like
is it like tree,
gourd
tree,
something.
or
It's like a
no,
gourd
not
one.
tree, no.
No, it's
Uh, who's the one who evolved into a tree? Or is it just, or does no one evolve into a tree?
Pumpkaboo. Phantomp is the other one. Trevenant. Gorgeist, that's the one. Gorgeist is its
Oh, okay.
evolution. And it's Trevenant that is the counterpart.
But
That's for
yeah,
Gen 6. Yeah, there we
that's
go.
it.
Yeah,
And our
we'll
final
just
topic,
move on to the final
that was
topic.
nearly 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Uh,
nearly. Yeah, we'll try and get through
uh,
this one as quickly as possible.
this one I thought of on last night, and obviously we discussed topics this morning.
Yeah.
And I was just like, shit, what was that really good topic that I had? And it was, what ruins a fan base? So there's a few points I want to quickly gloss over. So the
Yeah.
three things that I
I'll let
thought of
you go
was
first. Yeah.
cringe, right? So you got uh like Among Us memes, they were pretty cringe. So you got cringe, toxic fan base, so you got like gatekeeping, um, keeping new fans out of things. And the final one is if it just gets like bad, like if the product that your fan base is around gets worse than what it was when obviously it got big. So obviously you got um I don't know, like I guess we could say wrestling maybe. I feel like a lot of people have or WWE have left the fan base 'cause that's got bad. So I feel like if we just talk about our personal experiences with one of the three, if you have anyone that you're like angry about, because I've got a
Um.
few.
Well, I mean, there's not really a huge amount for me. I do sometimes get annoyed at like the Marvel fandom, and it's why
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't.
big one for me.
I think that's one of the reasons I don't like call myself like a Marvel fan. Like I'm a fan of the movies, but like I'm not as big of a fan as I used to be. I think I don't know really what it was. I think I might have said it before in an episode, like last week or week before. Since Endgame, I haven't really been as big into Marvel because I'm just like burned out of superhero films, Marvel superhero films in particular. But
I feel like, oh, carry on.
yeah, I was just gonna say like the way that the Marvel fan community acts a lot of the time is just a bit, you know.
Yeah, I feel like Marvel is one of the ones where it suffers from, as I said, toxicity and gatekeeping, of course. Because when I was, you know, I only well, I've been like in comics for like the past 3, 4 years. Around when like Infinity War came out, I was just like started to really get big on Marvel. That's when I was like watching all the films. I was like making like theories, um, I and I started getting into comics a little bit. And obviously now I'm like buying comics every week. Like I bought comics yesterday, and I'm gonna buy some tomorrow because it's Tuesday. Um, and obviously it's it's something for me where it's when I was like obviously I don't know every comic storyline, so I'm still sort of on the outside of people are gatekeeping. Oh, you don't know Barry McCockiner, who was in a single issue of The Incredible Hulk in 1997, and he's known for wielding Mjolnir while shoving Widow's bite up his ass and sustaining the full might of the Human Torch and Doctor Strange in one go. And I'm just like, no, I don't know Barry McCockiner. I just know like some of the main guys, like I've been trying to catch up. Like, give me credit. And I feel like gatekeeping is a big issue now in a lot of industries really, where it's like if you don't know a specific detail, they will just pick it out and they'll get you for it. And I feel like I've tried not to do that, but sometimes I've been like um a guy on our Discord, obviously he's been like watching a lot of the Marvel shows recently, and he's been talking to us. I've been like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you don't know that Eli Bradley is Patriot." I've caught myself doing it a few times. I've just been like,
yeah, I get you. Yeah,
I've tried not to slip up, but sometimes I feel like it comes from a place of being dominant, of knowing more, and I feel like with obviously one division being as big as it was, I feel like Marvel fans have used an opportunity to be like, oh, you didn't know White Vision was gonna happen, you didn't know the West Coast Avengers. I'll be like, oh, fuck off, mate. And if you ever follow me on TikTok and you watch the same TikToks as me, you can maybe see me in the comments a few times being like, oh, shut up, Soups, you know, like you don't have to fucking be like, oh yeah, I know everything. But yeah, that was very rambly. Uh, but I feel like if we pick on the other points of uh crap like meme culture, like cringe culture, I feel like the Dream SMP suffered from that a lot. I was a big fan of that when that first started. And obviously that suffers cringe. I feel like PewDiePie fans, they're pretty cringe. Uh like obviously we got like the Among Us meme, the baby meme that's got sort of cringy now. Um I just feel like a lot of fan bases, well, not like there was a huge fan base around the baby memes, but certainly around the baby. But I just feel like it's just annoying when you're really invested in something and then someone comes along and says or does something that ruins it, and then it's just been ruined for everyone. Then I don't know if Jack, you have any other experiences you want to mention, or I don't know, but oh, okay. I've just seen a message from Jack. Oh, you like Big Bang Theory, Modern Family? They're crap, they're crap. Why'd you watch him? Well, obviously, if you like him, you watch him, all right? Or read it or whatever. Because I feel like I was one of them persons back in the day who'd be like, oh, you like Harry Potter, you fucking nerd. And then obviously when I got into it, I obviously felt some of the hate for it. Not well, I don't feel any hate for Harry Potter. Obviously, that's huge. I feel like the people who are insulting that are very quiet at the minute. But yeah, so don't be ashamed of what you like. Uh, but if you see anyone in the fan base being toxic or anyone outside of it being toxic, I, we didn't talk about the third one of obviously the quality declining of the product, but there aren't many examples of that. So I should clarify, or any that I've been affected by personally. I guess I could say, I guess like the DC films, I guess, but yeah, I can't really say much more about that. But no. So yeah, that's a goodbye from me, and I'll say goodbye for on the behalf of Jack. It's a shame that you couldn't be here for the rest of the show. But yeah, obviously things come first, and it's obviously wasn't a good time. He's gonna be listening to this back, and he's gonna be loving it. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening to what podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday, and we'll be getting some uh good intro topic. So goodbye for now.